Hey y'all, my name is Adina Barnett Miller, but I'm known to my students as Mrs. B. I've been passionate about West Virginia history for as long as I can remember, but my mom would tell you it all started when I was 3 years old and she bought me a West Virginia counties puzzle at Gino's Pizza. I've taught history in Ripley, West Virginia for over 20 years now, and I'm an adjunct professor who teaches college West Virginia history to high school students. Please join me for West Virginia History with Mrs. B, a field trip across the Mountain State to walk in the footsteps of those who came before us. Hey y'all, it's West Virginia History with Mrs. B, and I'm coming to you from Helvetia, West Virginia, which is located in Randolph County, right on the border between Randolph, Upshur, and Webster counties. And this is a pretty remote place by even today's standards. Helvetia is not the easiest place to get to. It takes about an hour to get here from Buchanan, and about an hour and 10 minutes, 20 minutes from Elkins. And so we are definitely off the beaten path, but I think that's how the first settlers who came here wanted it to be. They wanted to come to a place where they could continue their traditional ways of life that they learned in Switzerland. And so in 1859, a group of immigrants from Brooklyn, New York are going to pack up and they are going to come to the mountains of the newly formed state of West Virginia. The closest they could get on the train was Clarksburg, and so at Clarksburg they're going to make the 75-mile trek from Clarksburg to what it is now Helvetia. It's like literally the middle of nowhere. They're going to come across a vast wilderness. There's not a road, and it takes them 4 days to get here. But when they do get here, they fall in love with the scenery. They fall in love with this wild wilderness, and they decide to make this wild wilderness their home. And so this town continued to grow with Swiss immigrants for decades. There's about 50 residents today, but at one point there were over 1,000 people living here in Helvetia in the year 1911. All right, so you may be asking yourselves, why would Swiss immigrants immigrate to the United States if they wanted to maintain and keep their traditional ways of life? And a lot of that had to do with the protections that come with being American citizens, things that we take for granted in the Bill of Rights, whether that's, freedom to freely associate, freedom of speech, and especially freedom of religion and religious expression. They didn't have that in Europe. And so for these people that are coming to America, to be able to freely be themselves as Swiss American immigrants was extremely important. We're here at the Presbyterian Church here in Helvetia. This is just, a gorgeous setting here in Helvetia. But this is where many of the residents living in Helvetia will come and attend church on a weekly basis. And so religion was very important to these immigrants, and they wanted to make sure that they could practice the religion the way they wanted to practice religion. So we are now in the historic community square of Helvetia, and so behind me is the Helvetia Library. It is open every day for the citizens of Helvetia. The original residents who come to Helvetia, not only are they educated so they can read and write, most of them in the German language, but they also were trained in skilled craftspeople, and so they definitely wanted to maintain that level of education here in Helvetia. And so this library is a fantastic resource for the people in this community. You can come and check out books. They also have a massive DVD collection that people can enjoy. And so the library is definitely well used. We've even used the library when we've come out here. We've come across the bridge and we've checked out DVDs when we've been staying at Swiss Roots. So this place is open and welcome to everyone. For people that live in this tiny community, they actually go to school across the mountain in a town called Pickens. Pickens is also a small German community as well. And this school exists. I think there are like 38 students, grades K through 12 at Pickens. But the Pickens School remains open and continues to remain open because of the isolated nature of these communities. If these children had to get on the bus and go to Huttonsville to like go to Tiger Valley, or say get on the bus and go to Elkins to go to high school, they're going to be on the bus 2 hours probably one way just to get to school, whereas they only have to drive 4 miles over the mountain to Pickens from here. And so, you know, Pickens School has been, you know, a staple of both communities for generations. And so they may only graduate 1 or 2, 3 kids a year, but they continue to provide a high quality education here in the mountains for the people of Helvetia and Pickens. If you're lucky enough to get here during library hours, you can visit this Helvetia Museum. The museum is actually a original cabin built by one of the original settlers here in Helvetia, and it's set up so you can see what it was like, the primitive living for the first residents of Helvetia. And so it's this log cabin, and you can go in and look and see how small it is, and you know, the fact that anything that they had here with them, they had to bring with them over the mountains before the railroad came here. The railroad will come to Pickens. It will run through Helvetia. It'll also run through Selbyville, which is over in Upshur County, right on the Upshur-Randolph line. And they're going to be doing lots of timbering in this region. There's going to be a chemical plant over at Selbyville that's going to employ hundreds of people. And so this community goes from being isolated to being connected to the rest of the world. One of the mainstays of the Helvetia community is going to be the general store that is behind me. This is where people come to get their mail. It's where people come and get the goods that they need, so they don't have to drive all the way into Buchanan or Elkins to go to the grocery store. And so this is really the center of the community. It was originally known as the Culture House, H-A-U-S, but it's going to be purchased by community members in 2021 and turned into Swiss Roots. They also have a bed and breakfast here that you can stay in. But as you guys know, if you've watched any TV shows from the Waltons to Little House on the Prairie, that in every small community, the general store is the beating heart of the community. All right, behind me is the Helvetia Star Band Hall. There are 2 halls in Helvetia. This is the smaller of the 2. As long as there's been a Helvetia, there has been a star band. And so the star band not only is known for playing traditional Swiss music, but also playing Appalachian music, as well as playing square dance music. And so they are a fixture of all the Helvetia events, from Fasnacht to the Helvetia Fair to the Ramp Dinner. They play throughout the year here in Helvetia. They're a connection to the past here in the present. All right. So one thing you should definitely be aware of if you come to Helvetia, you are not going to have cell phone service, and you're going to have limited access to the internet. And so, of course, this payphone is a flashback to the past, but for people here, they still have to have landlines because they don't have cell phone service. So if you're coming to Helvetia, you should definitely plan to make your phone calls in Upshur County before you come over, or over in Huttonsville before you come over on that side, because phones don't work here. You also definitely should fill up your tank with gas before you come, because there's no gas stations out here either. This building is a remnant of Helvetia's historic past. There are going to be all kinds of artisans and craftspeople who come and make Helvetia home. And one of those was Gottlieb Detweiler, who was a boot and shoemaker. And so you could come down here and have custom shoes made. And in an era of, you know, the Industrial Revolution, where everything is being factory produced, it's amazing to think that these people were preserving an earlier way of life where everything was handmade by craftsmen and artisans. Because we're in the West Virginia mountains, there's going to be lots of creeks and springs and runoff from the mountains that head to lower elevations. I'm actually standing right here on the banks of the Buchanan River, which runs through Buchanan, West Virginia and Upshur County, but the headwaters start here in the mountains. And so we had a lot of rain the last couple days, so this creek is definitely flowing pretty heavily right now. But this is just clean mountain water. If you look at it, it's gorgeous as it's coming off of the mountains here. And in the summer, you can even get in and swim. I have done it in the past. Have definitely been in this creek, and it is even cold in the middle of summer because it's that just fresh mountain water that's coming out of the Allegheny Mountains. Alright, so there's actually two places you can come and stay when you come to Helvetia. One is Swiss Roots, the bed and breakfast. We're going to do a separate video to show that to you. But also you can stay here at the Beekeeper Inn, which is a lovely accommodation here in Helvetia. It's actually run by the folks who own the restaurant, the Houte. And so if you want to come and stay here, you get in contact with the Houte to reserve your rooms. And they feed you a lovely Houte breakfast. And then right next door to the Beekeeper is the honey house. And so as long as there's been a Helvetia, there have been people producing food products for sale here in Helvetia. And one of those is honey, which you can pick up and buy at the Swiss Roots. It is just a great place to get just fresh, wholesome food. And so the honey house, I don't think it's really open anymore, but it's a building that has been here in the past, and there are still people who are beekeepers and producing honey here in Helvetia today. Also, the same goes for the cheese house. It's a nice building that's sitting here. They're not really producing cheese in the cheese house anymore, but there are people who are producing cheese in their family homes, and you can buy that cheese both at the restaurant at the Houte, and you can get that cheese at Swiss Roots as well. This is, you know, just really cool pieces of history. And speaking of which, this is the old Helvetia Road. So when they finally got a path into the mountains, this is going to be the main drag for the people of Helvetia to get where they needed to go. This is, you know, used by the local community. You can drive on it, and they have a historic trail that you can take that goes further up through here as well. And so it's just a beautiful, lovely place. If you are a big walker, this would be a great place for you to come and walk and just enjoy the day. As y'all know, on West Virginia History with Mrs. B, we love a good West Virginia historical road sign. And so this is the sign demarking Helvetia. And it says that Helvetia was settled by a group of Swiss and German immigrants who came here from Brooklyn, New York in 1869. In addition to farmers and herdsmen, many craftsmen and professionals were among the settlers, including stonemasons, carpenters, and painters, wagon, shoe, watch, and cheesemakers, musicians, teachers, ministers, and even a doctor. Later groups arriving from Switzerland and other parts of the United States boosted the 1874 population by 308, and as we will discuss later on, it will get to a population of over 1,000 people living here in Helvetia by 1911. We're at the larger of the two halls here in Helvetia. This building is actually 2 floors. So the first floor is during the Helvetia Fair and other activities. This is where you're going to come and do all kinds of good local eating, including homemade pretzels. And if you go upstairs in this building, it is an awesome dance hall, and you can go and do lots of folk dancing and bluegrass dancing and square dancing. Just have the time of your life here in Helvetia. This building is really cool. They have all kinds of shields on the side of the building. These shields, of course, harken back to the Swiss roots that are here at Helvetia. And you can see the architecture. It's really like Appalachian architecture meets Swiss architecture. It's very practical. We've got the metal on the roofs, especially because we're in the mountains. We're going to see a lot of snow and rain throughout the year, and so you have to have something that's going to survive the elements. But when you go through town, you're going to see a lot of the buildings have this architecture detail with the tulip. And so I just love it. It's like being at Disney World, but this is real life. This is what people live on a daily basis here in Helvetia. And this is, a building that is the center of the community of Helvetia. And if you ever have the opportunity to come out and go to the Helvetia Fair, or come out in the winter and attend Fasnacht, you should definitely do it, because this town, there will be cars lined up and down the road because hundreds of people from all over the country and even outside of the country come to experience Helvetia firsthand. This is it is a huge treasure for the state of West Virginia to have this Swiss community that has remained intact in spite of everything that it's experienced, with people living here who have left here. They've been able to keep the community and the culture and the heritage intact.
And one thing I want to add on, earlier this morning you were telling me about a Google search you did on this community, and it said it was a Swiss themed community, as if it was like, Disney World or something like that. This is real life.
This is real life. This is real life. This is real people preserving their heritage. And what was happening as the outside started to come in, especially after World War II, and especially with attacks on having that German Swiss heritage, people didn't want to hear the German language spoken, during World War II or after World War II. And so it's going to take a concerted effort of a lot of the community leaders to preserve what's here. And so part of that's going to be with the Helvetia, the restaurant, preserving the food culture and the foodways. They're going to produce the cookbook, and they're going to bring back these activities like the Helvetia Fair and Fasnacht, so the outside world can come and participate in what's happening here in Helvetia. I think it's, just really admirable to think about the fact that a lot of these old ways, even like cheese making, disappeared for a period of time here in Helvetia. When I, started coming here over 20 years ago, that was something that had pretty much been lost, and now it's back, and you can come anytime and get yourself some Helvetia cheese. I know that sounds crazy just to think about cheese as, one thing that, is so important, but it's that culture and heritage. Everybody made cheese at their house at one time, and now there's a few people here who realize the importance and the heritage of that, and so they have made a concerted effort to start producing that cheese again, so that the people that are coming here can have that firsthand experience of eating cheese that is produced in Randolph County by the descendants of the original Swiss settlers who came here. No tour of Helvetia would be complete without stopping at the Helvetia. The Helvetia is one of the main beating hearts of this community. You can come here about 4 days a week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you can have a wonderful Swiss Appalachian meal here at the Helvetia. This Helvetia has been open since the early 1960s, and I pray that it is open for many more decades to come. Thanks, y'all, for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to West Virginia History with Mrs. B on both Facebook and YouTube.